Process.Audio is currently having a 40% off sale across their entire store, and in this video we're going to look at every single one of those plugins. If there's a particular one you're looking at, you can skip to it. I've left timestamps in the description so you can just look at that particular plugin, but we are going to start with Protility, which is a completely free plugin and a great introduction to the company. Essentially, this is a Swiss Army knife for every single track. It's the first thing I've been sticking on my tracks recently just because it gives you a really nice handful of tools. Everything from phasing, so if you need to invert the phase, you can do that up here, or unlink it and just invert one side of the chain or other. If something is sitting ever so slightly out of phase as well, you can fix it using that. So just a really handy little thing to use. I actually use it a lot in content creation, especially if the voice is ever so slightly off when you've got two different mics. Really handy tool. You also have a high pass filter down there as well. Up at the top, you've got a very basic delay. You can have it in samples or milliseconds. You can have it linked together or separate. Maybe you want it here on one side, then the other, or maybe something needs delaying ever so slightly. So that's really handy. If you double click, you can type in a number as well. So that's really simple and easy to use. Right in the middle, you've got width. You can have it so it's just doing the mids and the sides. You also notice right at the bottom as well, when you hover over anything, it does give you some helpful tips. You can turn that off if you're familiar with everything, but I find it just handy to have when you're starting out. But that essentially gives you some stereo width. You can, of course, make it monophonic as well. Right at the bottom, this is probably the tool I use most in this, is the bass mono. When you're working on the bass or lower end of your track, it's better to have it monophonic. You'll hear it more than if it's stereo. So this is a really handy tool. Like currently, I've got this on some drums. So if we press play and actually turn that delay off for now, we can actually just listen to the frequencies here, set kind of where we want that to have our bass as mono. I can then actually widen up the track a bit if I want as well. If we stop listening to that, I want my sides a bit wider, kind of like my mids where they are. Let me take them back a little bit, and then have our bass more monophonic, and then just turn that off and on. It just mixes our drums in a little bit better, makes them a little bit wider in the context of a track. It just spreads them out a little bit better. They're not just centered with everything else. So I really like the fact that you can just do that within this free plugin. Of course, you've got gain there as well, and panning left and right, pretty standard features. And then there's this trim knob as well, especially if your digital audio workspace that you're working in doesn't have a volume fader. You can automate this one instead. It's essentially just a volume knob right there. And then you can split the gain as well for left and right. But there you have it, a really handy free plugin that I just can't stop using since I've downloaded it. You'll notice there are a couple of different presets as well, and if you get it to the point where you like it, you can save a preset as well. But let's move on to our next plugin. Now I feel this plugin was aptly named. Just think what sugar does to food, this does to your track. Not only that, it's addictive. I keep coming back to it, especially when I've got some boring leads that I just need something a little bit more. I want to make it a little bit more exciting. This is a great plugin, and it will currently only cost you £77. Should also mention there's a 30-day free trial for all these plugins as well, so you can try them out for yourself before you actually pay for them. But let me show you an example. Currently I've got a lead guitar. We'll make sure this is actually turned off, and this is how it sounds out of context. Nice and simple. We'll stick it back into the entire track so you can hear it. It's catchy, and you're going to have that stuck in your head for the rest of the day. But now let's add some sugar to it. And now let's turn this off and on and actually put my drums back into that as well. Just makes it that little bit more interesting. I'm going to accentuate it a little bit more so you can hear what some of these things do. It's a really easy plugin to use. You don't have to fully understand what's going on. What I recommend doing with this one is just going in and dragging these up and having a listen. Now, how did I go from stereo to mids and side? Simply clicking Command and click will move you over to that. And then you can just flick between the two, even if you change this one ever so slightly. If you flick between the two, I really like how you can bring out those sides ever so slightly more. Just adds a little bit more interest in the mix. And then of course you can bring it up and down as well. So if you're thinking, well, it's a bit too much, but I kind of like how everything's sitting, you can bring it up, bring it down. They do have a couple of really interesting presets as well, from everything from drums, guitars, and keys. If we actually pick something from the guitars, I thought this one was quite interesting. And again, we'll do a little comparison off and on. Just adds a little bit of interest. Let's do it on another part of the track actually. So this little 8-bit bit we've got going on down here. Let's make it sound a little bit more interesting. So we've got more going on our low end. A bit more punch. And again, Command and click. I'm going to get those mids and sides. Excite that up a little bit, and I want a bit of crunch. Bring it back ever so slightly. Just makes it so much more interesting, and you saw how quick and easy that was to do. Mix it all in again. And what's nice as well, right at the bottom, linear phase. If you click that, that will stop any phase cancellation as well with what's going on in here. But just a really easy to use plugin that just adds a little bit of, I don't want to say bush sugar, to your music. We should probably leave the cliche marketing puns to the car salesmen, but I couldn't help myself with that one. Anyway, moving on to the next plugin, Decibel, an extremely handy metering tool, especially for sound engineers. This is one I use out on jobs when I'm hiring out PA systems and wanting to get a sense for the room, a sense for the performance that's going on, because you can quite literally see everything visually that is going on audibly within the sound system. It's not a cheap tool, £77, but it's extremely useful to see what's going on, and I've not actually seen anything quite as comprehensive as this. And what's really nice is you can have it on a tablet, you can have it on your phone, so while your laptop's at the mixing desk, you can run off with your phone and still be monitoring stuff. To show it in practice, I'm just going to play that track again, and you can visually see what's actually going on. And what's really nice as well, especially if you're working on a track for YouTube, for Netflix, for what else have they got here? They've got quite a few different ones. yeah, Spotify, Club Music, DVD, Apple Music, Amazon Music. This is a really handy tool to shove it through to make sure it ticks the boxes, because I can bet you right now this will not, my current track will definitely not hit the box for Netflix. I can almost guarantee that. Let's just play that. Yeah, definitely not. That's because I actually work to YouTube mostly, and so if I put this to YouTube, I bet it will pass on just about everything except, I think True Peak will be fine, but my LUFS will not be. Yeah, True Peak's fine. And yep, it's right in that line. It gives you an absolute ton of information, but at a glance, especially if you know what you're looking at, you can essentially see if your track's good enough or not. What I really like is this one in particular, because it can show me, as I was saying earlier, I like my low end to be a lot more monophonic, while the highs, I like a little bit more space. Now, you have a number of different presets as well. You don't have to just stick with this one. I'm using the factory preset full layout, I believe, but they've got a couple of different ones. Something a little bit smaller. You can also create your own custom ones. Just click and add what you want, dump it where you want, and just have exactly what you need. You can resize everything. The customization of this is absolutely crazy, and I honestly love the fact that you can do all that. Not only that, you can make it look pretty. So you've got skins over here, and you can flick through these. There's different colors. You can go to the drop down, use different skins. There's everything from seasons to monochrome, technical. So really, you can customize this as much as you want, which I really like. And then reset it, have a number of different, as many windows as you want. It's just a really handy tool to have as a sound engineer, and just something at a glance you can see what is going on. Overall, super handy tool that I use a lot out on site, less so in the studio myself, but still, there you have it. Now moving on to Spicerack, getting creative with distortion. This will currently set you back £45 on sale, which I feel is a steal for the quality of this plugin. Again, that 30-day free trial, so you can try it out before purchasing. Love that. It looks more complicated than you think. Even if you're new to this sort of thing, they break it down really well. Even on the website, you can see what everything actually does. And then in the plugin itself, when you hover over everything again, it tells you what it is doing. Now, I've currently got this on an electric piano to demonstrate. Let's just play the electric piano so you can hear it with no processing. Now that's just a basic yet beautiful free electric piano. Now let's try out these 5 unique distortion algorithms, starting with drive. Let's turn that on, and we're going to turn it up just a little bit so we can actually hear what's going on. Each, as you can hear, has their own unique characteristics. Now, a couple of things to bear in mind. Linear phase, I normally keep that on. It prevents any phase cancellation or issues with blending your wet and dry signal together. Calibration as well. This is a really handy tool because half the time these distortion plugins add loudness to the sound, but you can actually play it. It will analyze your track. I'm currently playing live, so this won't work as well, but you click that, it'll wait, listen to the sound, and calibrate the loudness so that when you're adding this, you're not adding gain, you're just adding that distortion, which I feel is really important. And I think I said it roughly right because the raw sound is that, and then your saturation is that, maybe a little bit. So you're not adding loudness, you're just adding distortion. Now, my personal favorite, lo-fi, so we're going to keep it on that one for now. Now over here you've got an equalizer, so now we can send the drive to the equalizer. You can swap it round as well, but you can mess with this. You've got your low ends down here, your high ends up here, and then your mids in here, and you can shape that sound and then make it brighter or darker. Really cool effect. I think we've gone from that to really nice. And again, you can go stereo, mid, or side. I love throwing up the side. You can just listen to that, what's going through there. But then let's turn that off and hear how it sounds. Gives it this really nice dreamy sound, which we turn off. It's more subtle, but it just makes it sound so much more interesting. You have a gate there as well on the left, really handy if you're wanting to push your drums through it, so you can just have it on the punchier sounds. Really nice to have that feature. You can also see what other tracks have this on as well. You can see I've got it on my electric piano here, but we also have it on my drums, and the fact that we can live play and see what's going on and then adjust the drive and mix from this instead of having to open that up as well is a really handy feature. You also have a load of different presets, everything from basses, keys, drum kits, tons and tons and tons. Let's stick one of the keys on. Subtle, but I like that effect. That's the original sound. Now, one more button you might have noticed is the plus 18 dB. Now, this is the sound currently. When I click this, you'll notice it's still that same loudness. You're just getting that distortion. And again, I feel that's such an important feature. This is slowly becoming my go-to distortion plugin just because it's so easy to use and it gets great results most, if not all, of the time. Now, moving on to Ripple. This is one of those plugins that time just escapes you when you first download it. It's such a fun plugin to mess around with, and it's a lot simpler than it actually looks. They do a really good job of breaking it down on the website. I like this loop feature here. Basically, everything on the left side gets fed back into the feedback loop, while on the right, it's like an effect after the delay. This stops it from essentially overloading when you pile everything on top of it. But I like the visual representation as as well. And I like the fact that you've got these 5 really cool different delay colors, 2 different delay modes, a ton of different racks to just add on and mess around with. You also have these LFOs, so you can attach them to different bits and patch it up to get some really creative effects. There's an anti-Doppler effect as well, which is really handy, and over 100 professional presets. But if we jump into the plugin itself, this is how it looks default. I'll just quickly show you the raw sound I've stuck on it. It's just a nice little chime. And you know what? Needs a bit of delay. Now, the 2 different modes, you've got the feedback one and then the repeat. This can go up to 32 bars. You can have it on dual mode as well, the same with the feedback, which is really nice. You'll notice all your different effects over here. Just click add and then pick one from the choosing. You can then, of course, drag and drop that wherever and adjust where that loop is as well. You've also got your LFOs down here. You've got 2 different ones, and you can attach them to anywhere you please, which can be quite devastating if you do something wrong. And then you've got your second one there as well. And again, you can change what that LFO does. I love the simplicity in how this works. Just click anywhere to go off of it as well. You've got your 5 different colors up here. We're just going to stick with tape for now. And you know what? We'll go with the repeater, because this, in all honesty, is a really fun little user interface to mess around with. You can see how you can easily just get lost in it, which is pretty cool. And then you've got panning as well. Again, the amount of control and the way they've laid it out, I feel they've done a really good job. I have no idea what I've done here. Let's just add a spring reverb on top of that. Isn't that magical? You literally saw, I just randomly threw on whatever, and we literally went from this sort of sound to something a lot more exciting. Which is super, super cool. And we can even, I say, do more to that. Let's go to our other LFO and stick that on that, because why not? We're going to add some more effects, bit of chorus. Super cool. We'll go onto the feedback mode as well, just so you can see what's going on over here. You can see our LFOs are still linked to those features that were on the repeat, but in the feedback mode. Let's back that down ever so slightly. Adjust some of these parameters and see what we can make of this. Again, we've made something magical completely at random, but that's kind of the fun of messing with things like this. And literally, this is what we started with. A lot of fun. I highly recommend just downloading the trial for 30 days and messing around, having a bit of fun with that. But we've barely scratched the surface of what this can do, and not even checked out all the plugins. We've still got an ensemble, pitch, flanger. I'll leave that for you to explore yourself, but we must move on. Filter Factory, as it says on the tin, can add texture and motion to your track. You've got a couple of different classic and, as they say, innovative filters, everything from the bass, Crybaby, Future. You've got a low pass and high pass filter, the phaser, which looks absolutely funky smooth, and then your talk box. What I really like about this plugin is the fact that you can actually attach your pedal to it. Like if we actually go onto the manual mode, you can see no hands, I'm pushing my pedal and it's controlling it so you can link it. Now I've done that through Logic Pro X, through their control surface and Learn assignment. If you right click, it won't select a MIDI CC, but that's how I've done it in Logic anyway, so you can connect it. So if you're playing, for example, what have I got on right now? It's an electric key, I believe. This is the raw sound. And then if we turn that on, you can now hit your pedal. And apply the filter, which I think is a really, really cool feature. And I like that fact. I like that you get that visual representation. And depending on your pedal as well and what you're connecting it through will depend on the amount of control. My pedal is getting a little bit old, but you can see the level of control I can have over there. But you do have an LFO there as well, and an envelope, and a ton of just different features. All your pedals there. Really, really simple to understand what's going on, and I love that fact. So let's go through some of our default Alien Clav. Really does just transform that sound, and you do have more control, and you can control the overall mix as well. And it does give you a very authentic sound, I feel. It's subtle, but I like the subtlety of it. Again, your raw sound. You can make it as subtle or as extreme as you want, and there's lots of different characters to discover. From your basic low pass and high pass filter to something a little bit crazier, and I really do like the factory presets as well. They've got some really good ones for a wide range of instruments. Another one just to download to experiment with to see if you like before purchasing. 30-day free trial. That one's a lot of fun. Now here we have the emulation of a modern German tube compressor. This is great to stick on your bass, your drums, your final mix. I'll demonstrate it in all three because I felt it worked really well. Again, if you're not familiar with compressors, they do a really good breakdown of what everything does. It helps you within the plugin, again with that 30-day free trial before you buy, and it is a really solid compressor. If we move into the plugin itself, I've currently got it on a bass guitar. I've got it on amp only, so bear that in mind, and I've turned the transformer off to keep that low bass end. I have tweaked this ever so slightly. I did initially use this little preset here. It's one more time with less feeling, and I have tweaked it ever so slightly, but it's off. Let's listen to my bass guitar without it. You're definitely going to want headphones for this. Now turning it on. Same loudness, which I feel is very important, but you're adding that character of the compressor, and that's when this link button is really handy, because as I adjust this, you'll see that it's linked. My output and input are linked. So we're just adding that amp only character, which is really nice for your bass guitars. And I love that feature. Now we're going to move over to it on my drums. Now with this one, I started with the drum loop puncher. I'm actually going to turn the visualize on so we can actually see what's going. I've got it on stereo, but I am going to change it to the mid and side because I feel it adds a lot to my drums. But let's actually mute that bass, just hear the drums in their raw state. Fine enough, but I want a bit more punch. Oh yeah, that's definitely coming through now. And if we put it on mids and side, again, you can hear what's coming through there. Turn my threshold a bit there. Just that little bit punchier. And then let's bring our bass guitar back in here. And what's nice, we've got the console there so we can see what's going on with the other one as well. Go back to stereo. You can see how easily that just adds really nice punch, really nice character to the drums and to my bass guitar. Now I also want to demonstrate this compressor on a track. Let's just turn this completely off so you can hear the track itself without the compressor. Now personally, I really like this compressor. It adds a beautiful character to the overall piece and really polishes it off for me. With the drums, it just added that extra punch with a nice little bit of grit, and especially with that bass with the amp only, gave it that overall beautiful sound. But that is the compressor. Now let me know your thoughts on these plugins. Which has been your favorite today? I highly recommend going and just trying them out for yourself for 30 days, experimenting and messing around with them. And then if you do like them, they're not that expensive. 40% off it is a really good deal. Obviously, buy responsibly, and Protility is completely free 100% of the time, and it's really handy to have on your track with a couple of those Swiss Army tools that are useful for just about everybody. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one.